Yo, Technomage, and this is going to be the unabridged version of the Side-Eye Pinkie Pie Rebukes White Women's thread on Project 2025. I say unabridged because this is my second time through, and I've had time to think about it, but honestly, the more times you go through something, reading through it, you're going to learn more, think about it more. That's part of why I'm going to be doing this. I want to be vigilant about what's going to be coming. But if you want to see the light die in my eyes, even through the goggles and the glow of the screen, you can go watch the shorts. But you're going to get some thoughts here and there throughout this, because this is going to be a little bit longer, but it's also going to not have those yo, yo, yo interruptions. But it's a short, and I feel like I have to introduce myself each time. Excuse my compulsions. But I digress, and from here on out, it'll be mostly her words until I say so. And this will also include the ending summary and some final thoughts that I could not fit into the size of a current short. So that's the other reason why I decided to make this. So here we go. Here begins my Project 2025 thread. I will be posting a department a day with bullet points I have for my research. This will take several days. I can't do it all in one sitting. It takes a lot out of me, and I recommend not reading the entire thread in one go anyway. But, you know, this is me speaking. As a self-proclaimed hero, I feel like I should probably do this. I would recommend that you not take this in a big chunk if you understand all of this, and I'm going to try and break down the acronyms as well when we get to some of them, because I don't always get those and understand what those are. So here we go. She says, because it will screw with your mental health, but she uses a F-bomb instead of that, which I would use, but we're still too soon in the video for me to feel comfortable doing that. Anyway, and I might still censor those. So, I will start posting shortly, she says, but that was 15 days ago. The first section of their actual plan begins with Section 2, the Common Defense. Section 1 is a breakdown of how the government works. So, this is where I will start, the DoD and its agencies. Also, you will see multiple agencies listed several times because they show up multiple times by different authors of different chapters. The Department of Homeland Security. Dismantle the DHA. Dismantle the TSA. I think that is the Transportation Security Administration. Let me make sure. Yes, that's the Transportation Security Administration. So that's the other thing. I'm going to be doing guy in a chair thing for this. And FEMA, which I'm honestly never looked up what FEMA is. FEMA, not now. I mean, I know what it does, but what does it stand for? What does it stand for? Federal Emergency Management Agency. I feel like we ought to have that. So, privatized TSA and FEMA. Excuse me, I accidentally skipped that, I think. But, like I said, this is unabridged. So, stop funding for states and localities for FEMA. Political appointees for secretary and undersecretary to be filled from Project 2025 database. I think that's already starting. Place all nominees into acting positions. No need for confirmation. This is me speaking again, and that's something they're going to have to do a lot of legal garbage with. They'd have to have a lot more power in the Senate and Congress than they do right now. Remove all confirmation required jobs. Political only line of secession. Loyalists only. No FEMA aid to locations with undocumented immigrants. Literally every state in the country, by the way. State and localities must share database information on undocumented persons to include the DMV, voter registration, and voter registration, excuse me. They want to build a database of undocumented immigrants. Papers, please. No increase with H-2B seasonal non-agricultural work visas. Remove all current members of Homeland Security Advisory Committee. Wow. Merge all immigration agencies. Give CBP permission to travel abroad, to travel aboard official aircraft nationwide. What is CBP? Hold on. Customs and Border Protection. Okay. Restart and expand horseback mounted border patrol. Clear records and personnel files of human rights abusers and violent agents, and issue apologies to them. Eliminate T and U visas used for victims of crimes. Eliminate visas to foreign students of enemy nations. Permissions to ICE agents to remove immigrants anywhere without a warrant. Rely on good judgment to avoid inappropriate situations, not, having rules and regulations. Fund ICE for increased detention space. Daily beds, 100,000. Hold on, let me go look up what ICE stands for. I think I know what that is, but I want to just confirm. If I'm going to look up one, I'm going to look up them all. ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement. Okay, just going to be doing that throughout this. So, permissions for ICE agents to, remove immigrants anywhere without a warrant. Rely on good judgment, blah, blah. Fund, blah, blah. Okay, excuse me. Remerge USCIS, ICE, and CBP, and remove from DHS. Let's see what, I'm going to click on that real quick, and then find out, go look up what USCIS is again. USCIS, what does it stand for? U.S. Citizenship Immigration Services. Okay, there we go. So, no agency support of DACA, Afghans, Ukrainians, Venezuelans, etc., and lottery for immigrants. Repeal protected status designation. Ignore rulings of all courts. Require applicants to fund USCIS taxes and increase prices, including asylum applications, which means it will become more expensive for those immigrating here, which is also the point. They don't want middle-class immigrants of color. They want rich white immigrants. Remove any agent who does not swear loyalty to conservative agenda. Whew. Mandatory funding for border wall. Repeal Trafficking Victim Protection Reauthorization Act. No children across the border. Large-scale use of expansion of temporary facilities, tents, camps, and make those permanent. Remove gang violence and domestic violence for asylum. Use local law enforcement. No funding for sanctuary cities. Mandatory detention. FEMA downsized for use of personal insurance. End CISA's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency counter misinformation and disinformation efforts. Oh, Jesus. Expand Coast Guard's capabilities outside our waters. Reinstate back pay anyone in the USCG who didn't get vaccinated. That's the Coast Guard. Transfer Secret Service to ICE field offices. Deunionize TSA. All unions will be broken up. Eliminate the Office of Intelligence and Analysis. Reduce congressional committee jurisdiction of the DHA agencies. Eliminate Office of Immigration Detention Ombudsman Office and Citizenship and Immigration Services Ombudsman Office, which that word still trips me up. I got tripped up the first time. Not to make light of it, but I'd never heard that one before. Hold on, let me go look that up again. So, An ombudsman is, or an ombudswoman, ombudsperson, or public advocate is a government employee who investigates and tries to resolve complaints, usually through recommendations, binding or not, or mediation. They are usually appointed by government or by parliament, often with a significant degree of independence. Okay, well, that's what an ombudsman is. Okay, that's not cool. This means the office that staffs people on behalf of immigrants will be eliminated. This completes the list for DHA. And she continues to say that she'll go on tomorrow to do the Department of State. And then she asks about comments, and I'm not going to read that. Okay, I will be sharing the Department of State, Intelligence, Community, Media Agencies, and the Agency for International Development, USAID. Here we go. Eliminate the DOS as an independent institution and bring directly under the President of the United States. What's the DOS? Hold on. Department of State. Okay. Excuse me. Like I said, I'm going to look up any of the acronyms that I can't immediately recognize, and they don't always click for me for some reason. Okay. Eliminate the DOS as an independent institution and bring it directly under the President of the United States with hand-picked political leadership and personnel. Everyone in leadership fired on Inauguration Day. Recall all career ambassadors. All DOS decisions to be passed by Senate. No accountability outside Department of State. Radio silence. Countries do not accept the return of citizens who came to states with lose all visas. Countries that do not accept the return of citizens who came to states will lose all visas. Jesus. Holy crap. Eliminate diversity program, student and exchange visitor student visas. Defund Palestinian Authority. Opens Gaza right up to Hamas. Colonize Africa. See page 186, which I'll have to go find that. Maybe I haven't actually downloaded it. It's a 900-page book on conservative manifesto. Drilling of the Arctic for fossil fuels. Global shipping lanes in the Arctic. Withdraw from the World Health Organization, the United Nations Human Rights Council, and other agencies. Withdraw from NATO, which I think that stands for North Atlantic Trade Organization. North Atlantic Treaty Organization, excuse me. My bad. Anyway, it's a good thing that I looked that up, right? Withdraw from the NATO and stop funding all countries with legal abortion. Restore international broadcasting for propaganda use. Intelligence community. DNI under President of the United States direction only. No input from military leaders, NCS, Joint Chiefs, etc. I'm going to look up DNI and NSC. Excuse me, I had a dyslexic moment. NCS instead of NSC. Excuse me. DNI. Okay, the DNI is the Director of National Intelligence, I think. So, and then the DCS. DSC? No, not DC. It's a hilarious typo, but not the right time. Typo demons, go away. No, is that really it? That's not it, right? Excuse me for the bad accent. Oh, no, of course. Like I said, this is a little bit unabridged. National Safety Council, I think? Or National Security Council? Yeah. National Security Council. National Safety Council appears to be an attempt at term confusion, but, you know, maybe. Anyway, that's not the right one. Anyway, so no Senate confirmation of director. President of the United States to choose CIA Deputy Director to begin immediate changes. No confirmation needed, and remove all career staff. Permanently move all directors of subdivisions out of D.C. Expand CIA directives past DOD overseas without approval. Remove all senior officers and replace with younger people and move them every 2 years. No continuity or institutional knowledge. Sorry about that. I accidentally hit a button and now it's, there you go. Remove any of the GS to G14, or remove any GS14 / GS15 employees. I'm not really sure what that is. Hold on. GS14. GS14 is a pay grade in the federal government. General schedule. Ah, okay. Okay. So that's just a couple of pay grades that are interesting. Okay, well, so, yeah. Huh. FISA, harsher punishment for whistleblowers. Let me look up that one now. FISA. Federal Intelligence Surveillance Act. So, release all cyber defense intelligence to the public within 48 hours of collection. No classification. Eliminate use of experts and chain of command to declassify information. One size fits all for all manner of classifications. Media agencies. U.S. Agency for Global Media, USAGM, report to the President and the NSC. Defund NPR and PBS, even if Congress does not allow legislation, ignore it. My comment now, this is starting, or it's already been sounding very fascist, but this is where it starts to get more fascist, okay? It just grows and grows, and to be clear, we have fought several wars against fascism, okay? Several of them. But I digress back to this. Or maybe it is not digressing, I'm right on the point. Anyway, Agency for International Development, USAID, established by Kennedy to promote foreign policy, security, and national interests of the U.S. Eliminate Chief Diversity Officer and any advisors and committees. Issue directive to cease and desist all DEI programs, including LGBTQ plus protections. Remove all references of gender, gender equality, gender equity, abortion, reproductive health, etc. from USAID materials and mission. No USAID assistance to countries where abortion is legal. Expand ties to private and religious organizations. She pauses here. She says, tomorrow I will begin adding Section 3, the general welfare. This is where shit really starts getting scary. We're talking about EPA, Department of Education, HHS, etc. Be sure to get your self-care in. And I'm going to pause real quick. Okay, here we go with Section 3, general welfare. Buckle up. General idea is national debt is Medicare and Medicaid's fault. COVID wasn't serious and masks don't work. No abortion care. Let's dive in. Department of Agriculture, USDA. USDA should play a limited role in food production. Government does not need to transform or develop national plans for supply chain. She wants extreme emphasis on that. She's put little sirens around it. So I'm going to pause a little bit. And yeah, that's alarming. We're already having issues in some places. So just like, it's just like, no, we're fine. Don't do anything about it. Denounce efforts to place climate change or other ancillary issues ahead of food production. Remove U.S. from UN food systems and any other efforts to push sustainable food production. Repeal federal sugar program. Repeal the agriculture risk coverage and price loss coverage program. Move USDA food and nutrition programs to DHS, excuse me. Department of Health and Human Services. Excuse me. Like I said, I'm gonna look up any acronym that I haven't come across before and didn't get an explanation of, and it'll just help us all. So, require employment for SNAP benefits. Let's see what SNAP stands for. Supplemental Nutrition Assistance. No, not Snapchat, you dumb AI. Families on TANF don't get SNAP, which that's not how it works right now. TANF is temporary assistance for needy families, which is, they're both assistance for food and stuff, basically. Food and etc. needs. It's not like food is the only need, okay? So, families on TANF don't get SNAP, or they won't get SNAP under this plan. Get rid of Thrifty Food Plan. The USDA analyzes costs of reasonable meal shopping. Families on SNAP don't get LIHEAP. That is Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, or they won't under this plan. Sirens. Deregulate baby formula for WIC. Holy crap. Okay, Okay, so there was a time, it's still a problem, but I don't know that there's been anything recently, but there was a problem for a while with baby formula that was either just not nutritional whatsoever, or was basically poisonous, or contained plastic. And so we need regulation for that stuff. And so to just have it fed into the WIC system, Jesus. Okay, eliminate universal school lunches. Eliminate conservation reserve program. Allow state-inspected meat to be sold cross-country. Eliminate USDA testing. I think that could be bad. Repeal federal labeling of genetically engineered food. Require the Forest Service to literally clean the ground in the forest, etc., to stop wildfires. Increase timber sales and chop down more trees to prevent wildfires. Eliminate dietary guidelines. Seriously, the problem is people aren't out there in the forest with brooms to clean the ground. Y'all remember this from his first term? Yeah, I did remember that, and I'm sad to be reminded of it, frankly. Reduce Farm Service Agency. Department of Education. Eliminate the Department of Education. Move funding to localities and states. Rescind student loan forgiveness. Remove CRT and LGBTQ+. CRT is critical race theory, and LGBTQ+ is lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender, and queer. Or excuse the extra ands in there. Plus is for, well, all the other stuff that there's so many that I don't even know of them, but I accept it, I respect it, y'all. Peace. Rescind school meals and income-driven student loan program. Rescind federal regulations on charter schools. Holy crap. Restore DeVos Title IX, birth sex only. Expand protection for faith-based educational institutions. Investigate all schools for Title IX complaints against trans students and drop all current investigations on behalf of trans students. You can tell I'm getting agitated because my words are fumbling a little bit more. Phase out all IDR and privatize all student loans. What's IDR? No. IDR. No, not IDR. That was nice to know. R. IDR. Income-driven repayment, I think, is probably what that means, yeah. Phase out all income-driven repayment and privatize all student loans. Consolidate all federal student loans that include no interest rate subsidies or forgiveness. More siren little markers. Make student data available by their family structure. Move info to Census Bureau. Move higher education data to Department of Labor. Move K-12 to DHS. Eliminate critical race theory from all schools. Investigate and charge colleges for Black and LGBTQ plus students inclusivity. And then see page 346. I didn't read this in the last one because of time limitations. It was just too much. And they say, mandate for leadership, the conservative promise. That's the top header. It says, surgeries without parental involvement does not reduce the self-life-taking of these young people and may even increase self-life-taking rates. The next administration should take particular note of how radical gender ideology is having a devastating effect on school-aged children today, especially young girls. School officials in some states are requiring teachers and other school employees to accept minor child's decision to assume different gender while at school without notifying parents. In California, New Jersey, and certain districts in Kansas and elsewhere, educators are prohibited from informing parents about children's confusion over their sex if the children do not want their parent to know. Such policies allow schools to drive a wedge between parents and children. The next administration should work with Congress to provide an example of state lawmakers by requiring K-12 districts under federal jurisdictions, including Washington, D.C., public schools, Bureau of Indian Education schools, and Department of Defense schools, with legislation stating that no public education employee or contractor shall use a name to address a student other than the name listed on a student's birth certificate without the written permission of a student's parent or guardian. No public education employee or contractor shall use a pronoun in addressing a student that is different from that student's biological sex without a written permission of a student's parents or guardians. No public institution may require an education employee or contractor to use a pronoun that does not match a person's biological sex if contrary to the employee's or the contractor's religious or moral conviction. State lawmakers should use this model and adopt similar provisions for public schools within their borders. Federal lawmakers should not allow public schools employees to keep secrets about a child from that child's parents. Never mind the case when the parent is being abusive. Yes, I know. There are going to be a lot of what abouts, but continuing. Expand attendance to private and charter schools. Allow states to opt out of federal K-12 education programs and redirect any funding to charter schools. Terminate public service loan forgiveness program. Remove the entire accreditation process by Congress. Department of Energy. The energy crisis is caused by green policies. U.S. won't have cyber attacks if we don't use solar and wind power. What? Repeal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and Inflation Reduction Act. Give EPA energy responsibility to private sector. Develop new nuclear weapons and reactors. Eliminate offices of clean energy demonstration, state and community energy programs, grid development, and loan program. Eliminate climate change science from DOE, which I think is Department of Energy, approvals, Department of Energy, and accelerate production of civilian nuclear reactors. Terminate clean energy in all science agencies. Increase private sector responsibility for disposal of nuclear waste. Fund, design, develop, and deployment of new nuclear warheads and production of plutonium pits. Expand USN. What is USN? And then U.S. Navy. Yeah, U.S. Navy. It's extend USN. Where was I? Excuse me. This graphic. I don't know what disorder it is, but one of them. Expand USN and develop new nuclear naval reactors. Yeah, I should have been able to infer from the next part. Cut funding of Office of Cybersecurity, Energy Security, and Emergency Response. Eliminate grid enhancing technology. Eliminate all DOE applied energy programs. End green subsidies. Eliminate energy efficiency standards for appliances. Defund the civil nuclear tax credit and hydroelectric power efficiency incentives. Scared yet? She says. Defund most grid development office programs. Refocus resources on fossil fuels and nuclear power. Eliminate the Office of Clean Energy Demonstration. Sunset Department of Energy Loan Authority through Congress and eliminate the Loan Program Office. Eliminate Clean Energy Corps and, eliminate Clean Energy Corps, which I always have trouble sometimes when I see that. Anyway, privatize energy. Oppose climate reparation, quote unquote, in Office of International Affairs. Free for all in Arctic, drilling, etc. Reject ratification of Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty to openly test nuclear weapons at will. Eliminate ALARA, A-L-A-R-A, a low responsibility, as low as reasonably achievable for radiation exposure. What is that? Oh, okay. Never mind. I should have realized. I'm an idiot. Anyway, this is why I'm reading someone else's take on it. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. Eliminate the Office of Environmental Justice and External Civil Rights. Eliminate the Office of Enforcement and Compliance Assistance. Eliminate the Office of Public Engagement and Environmental Education. Reset science advisory boards with hand-picked Heritage Foundation staff from database. Reform, quote-unquote, media offices. Day 1 executive order. Eliminate national ambient air quality standards. Remove greenhouse gas report program. Repeal Biden administration regulation for American Innovation and Manufacturing Act, AIM. Stop grinding petitions. Stop use of International Civil Aviation Organization to increase standards on planes. Eliminate the unregulated point of no non-point source standard. Okay. Change agencies' radiation standards. Require managers have training in project management instead of science. Eliminate Office of Emergency Management. Stop regular and rigorous testing of pesticides because they're already required to be reviewed every 15 years. Ongoing or planned science activity until, no ongoing or planned science activity until it's approved by Congress. Approved. Inauguration day freeze on all directives. She put a few sirens around that, which that's very alarming. That's insane. Appoint anti-climate change activist as assistant administrator for research and development. Qualifications of admin positions should emphasize management and execution skills rather than any sciences. Put political appointees in charge of grants. Political appointees as chief financial officer. Whew. Okay, she says, I'll start Department of Health and Human Services tomorrow, maybe tonight, depending on how I feel. Because rereading all these notes is making me spiral a little bit. I'll see how I'm feeling later today. Okay, beginning Health and Human Services. First, this chapter on HHS is written by former Director of Civil Rights at HHS, Roger Severino. Goal 1, protecting life, conscience, and bodily integrity, which is a laughable phrase. The Secretary should pursue robust agenda to protect the fundamental right of life, protect conscience rights, and uphold bodily integrity rooted in biological reality, not ideology. From the moment of conception, every human being possesses inherent dignity and worth. The secretaries must ensure that all HHS programs and activities are rooted in a deep respect for innocent human life from day one until natural death. Abortion and euthanasia are not healthcare. Radical actors inside and outside government are promoting harmful identity politics that replace biological sex with subjective notions of gender identity and bases a person's worth on his or her race, sex, or other identities, which is ironically gaslighting and projecting. That was me speaking, sorry. Radical actors inside and outside of the government are promoting harmful identity politics that replaces biological sex with subjective notions of gender identity and bases a person's wealth on his or her race, sex, or other identities. Threatens America's fundamental liberties as well as the health and well-being of children and adults alike. That's absolutely laughable. Absolutely ludicrous and spits in the face of actual science. Goal 2, empowering patient choice and provider autonomy. States should be primary regulator of medical profession. U.S. currently has an overconsumption of healthcare. Wow. Reduce regulatory compliance on insurers and medical providers. Goal 3, promoting stable and flourishing married couples. Families comprised of apologies, one of those loud neighbors I've complained about walked through. Anyway, Goal 3, promoting stable and flourishing married couples. Families comprised of a married father, mother, and their children are the foundation of a well-ordered nation and healthy society. That doesn't sound anything like communist propaganda, does it? Anyway, excuse me. Father insulates children from physical and sensual abuse. I can't use the word. I think they would mess with me in Google. Financial difficulties and or poverty. Incarceration, teen pregnancy, poor education outcomes, high school failures, and a host of behavioral and psychological problems. Father insulates from sexual abuse. Okay, yeah, no, not really. It's ironically often also the source of. You can't see me ironically smiling at that, but yeah, that's... Wow, what? Okay, HHS should prioritize married father engagement in its messaging, health, and welfare policies. Goal 4, preparing for the next health emergency. Continues blaming COVID-19 on Biden. Basic human rights, medical choice, and doctor-patient relationships trampled without scientific justification for extended periods of time. Excess deaths were not COVID-related. Quote, and that's the end of a quote. In Goal 5, instituting greater transparency, accountability, and oversight. All national institutes of health centers, or of Health, all National Institutes of Health, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and Food and Drug Administration regulators should have a period of 15 years before they can work for pharmaceutical companies. Pharmaceutical employees should be restricted from moving to any other pharmaceutical company. Now, to agencies within the HHS. Centers for Disease Control. COVID-19 is CDC's fault. Oh my God. Eliminate CDC's public health recommendation. Yeah, that's the Center for Disease Control, by the way. That was. Sorry, I had to pause for the neighbor again, unfortunately. Unexpectedly. Eliminate CDC public health recommendations and policies. A social arm of disease control should determine if risk mitigation is worth the price of shutting down churches and saving bodies over souls. Privatize testing for pandemic viruses. Eliminate CDC telling children to be vaccinated and not going to school during pandemic crises. All vaccines reporting should go to FDA. Eliminate all CDC programs and projects that links abortion, LGBTQ rights, right to die, eliminate all CDC programs and projects that have links to abortion, LGBTQ plus rights, right to die, and family formation. Continues to lie about fetal cells being used in COVID vaccines. Education of the rhythm or calendar method instead of use of birth control. Reports of all abortions that take place within a state's borders, gestational age of the fetus, reason for the abortion, mother's state of residence, and how she got to the abortion-safe state. Doctors required to report all abortions, including spontaneous miscarriage, also called spontaneous abortion in medical speak. Treatments resulting in termination of the fetus, such as chemo, stillbirths, and induced abortions. Track live births and abortions across all demographics. Immediately terminate collection of data on gender identity. And all access to mifepristone and misoprostol. I'm not sure what those are, but hold on, let me look this up. Okay, are used to end pregnancy or manage early miscarriage. Okay. So block mifepristone. I don't know how to pronounce that, but blocks progesterone, a hormone that supports pregnancy. It's also known by its developmental code name RU486. Misoprostol, which I don't know why I have less trouble with that one, causes contractions and expels pregnancy tissue. It's also known by the brand name Cytotec. Okay. So that's what those are. So end access to those. Require doctors in abortion-safe states report all medical abortions. Ban the shipping of abortion medications to all states via Comstock Act. Reenact the waiver for religious and conscience objections. National Institute of Health, NIH. Conspiracies about human-animal chimera experiments in the NIH. Ban all stem cell research. Abolish NIH Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. Repeal Medicare Shared Savings Program. Repeal Medicare Price Negotiation Program and privatize. Give states control of all Medicaid. Require states to add work requirements to Medicaid benefits. Repeal the ACA, Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare. Repeal No Surprise Act in favor of truth in advertising approach, quote unquote. Start use of non-clinical laboratories and researchers. Prohibit all abortion travel funding for military families and federal families, Eliminate Medicaid funding of Planned Parenthood. Re-emphasize states are free to defund Planned Parenthood. Any abortion providers disqualified from Medicaid funding. Passage of Protecting Life and Taxpayer Act would defund all abortion providers, period. Withdraw all Medicaid funds from states that require abortion insurance. Withdraw all Medicaid funds from states that refuse to do business with pharmacies that won't distribute abortion medication. Eliminate abortion fee reimbursement from Affordable Care Act if they don't manage to repeal the Affordable Care Act. End all Department of Justice investigations into providers who refuse to perform abortions in pro-life states. Eliminate all coverage of gender-affirming care. Ban Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act and establish criminal consequences for people who fail to provide care to fetuses. Eliminate individuals from qualifying for SNAP when they receive TANF. Work requirements for TANF. No TANF for single parents, teen parents, etc. Require teen pregnancy prevention and personal responsibility education programs to teach abstinence only and traditional nuclear family. No mentions of birth control, abortion, etc. in the materials. Repeal all regulations requiring non-discrimination of adoption agencies and grants. Move the Office of Refugee Resettlement to DHS. Transfer all unaccompanied minors to DHS and place them in camps. Ban all abortion assistance to migrant minors who are pregnant. Which I said in my videos and in the shorts, but I'm going to reiterate it. That means that children who were trafficked will not have the assistance provided to them. So they may be forced to carry their abuser's child. And no. That's Jesus. End child support of non-resident fathers by strengthening marriage support, by reducing child support payments based on frequency of child visits. Give non-resident fathers child support tax credits. Require each state to develop apps that will track non-resident and custodial parents and the money they spend on what, when, etc. Provide funding and grants to high schools that teach healthy marriage and abstinence, etc., quote unquote. Allow child welfare spending to be used for marriage and relationship education. Provide healthy marriage and relationships at Title X family planning clinics. Protect and expand faith-based grants and maintain biblically based definition of family and marriage. Eliminate Head Start. Fund home-based child care. Eliminate universal child care. Ban physician-assisted self-ending. Legally define the locus of service where the provider is and not where the patient is, aka telehealth. Eliminate telehealth across state lines via Comstock Act. Disregard guidance for pro-abortion American College of Obstetrician and Gynecology. Now the telehealth thing is because they don't want to, well, that should be obvious. They don't want people in one state, getting it. It's Big Brother. Anyway, disregard guidance from I already said that. Eliminate men's preventative services, condoms. Eliminate week after pill. Withdraw all Ryan White HIV and AIDS program funding. Eliminate all abortion training for medical providers. Prosecute anyone who censors dissenting opinions on COVID. Or censored, excuse me. Prosecute anyone who colluded, quote unquote, with abortion advocates and LGBTQ plus advocates to protest conscience protection laws. Conscience protection laws. Jesus. Eliminate reproductive health care access task force and install pro-life task force. Department of Life, quote unquote. The Secretary will proudly state that men and women are biological realities that are crucial to advancement of life sciences and medical care, and that married men and women are the ideal natural family structure because all children have the right to be raised by the men and women who conceived them. Restructure United States Public Health Service Commission Corps as uniform service. That's really strange to me right there. But also, yes, sure, absolutely disregard the biological fact of all sorts of species that A, have homosexuality, and B, they all still go through mating. They all still have babies. You know what happens when they're done? They go back to their lifetime partner, and they finish caring for that baby. Excuse me, Jesus. Or they beat the fuck out of them. I'm deep enough in this video I can feel like saying fuck. USPHS and Surgeon General combined under one 4-star position. That was U.S. Public Health Services Commission. U.S. Health Services. Anyway, Public Health. Blah, blah, blah. Excuse me. This is rattling my brain, man. Restructure Title 10 to focus on abstinence and rhythm method. Pass legislation that would prohibit family planning grants going to any facility that performs or recommends abortion. Rescind legal analysis that authorizes HHS to impose moratoriums on eviction during COVID. Office of Global Affairs to have no confirmation required and have clear and consistent, quote-unquote, message globally on U.S. priority on family and family planning. Establish conscience enforcement apparatus in the Office of Civil Rights and draft a religious freedom rule. Reestablish and widen waivers granted to faith-based adoption and foster care agencies. Remove all guidance concerning sexual orientation and gender identity. No enforcement of any LGBTQ plus protections. Explicitly interpret law to not include gender identity discrimination based on textual approach to male and female biology. Because Larry Nassar, I'll have to look him up at some point, present obligations under federal civil rights laws to ensure access to comprehensive reproductive health services. No federal civil rights will preempt state pro-life positions and statutes. Withdraw HIPAA guidance on abortion. She says, my stomach is in knots just glancing over all this again. I'll get started on the rest of the common welfare section, beginning with HUD in a few. I need a break. But after that, well, we're not going through a break. I understand. God, this does make me want to spiral too. And I did take a break for a little bit. Not very long, though. Oh, okay. Housing and Urban Development, HUD. Immediate placement of political appointees. Issue executive order making HUD secretary a member of Committee on Foreign Intelligence to address foreign threats. What? HUD task force of politically appointed members. What? End Biden property appraisal and valuation equity, PAVE program. Repeal climate change initiatives. Rescind Biden's affirmatively furthering fair housing program, eliminate housing supply fund, restrict program availability, end housing first policies for the unhoused, increase mortgage insurance premiums, restrict eligibility for first-time home buyers and end priority for single-family homes, allow renters to engage in competition for housing assistance, free market style. Department of the Interior, bring back oil and drill everywhere in the United States. Much has been undiscovered, quote unquote. Roll back all Biden policies. Bring back coal. Open majority of national petroleum reserves of Alaska to leasing and development. Reduce the number of monument designations. Delist grizzly bears and gray wolves from endangered species lists. Abolish the Biological Resources Division of the U.S. Geological Survey. Open oil drilling on delegated indigenous land. Department of Justice, DOJ. Still claiming collusion with Russia was false. Conduct reviews of all major FBI investigations and activities into Trump and his cohorts. Prohibit the FBI from engaging in activities related to combating the spread of misinformation and disinformation. Eliminate the Office of General Counsel. Eliminate 10-year term for director. FBI director must remain politically loyal to president. Bring criminal charges against, quote, criminals when local authorities do not. Initiate legal actions against local officials, including DAs, who refuse to prosecute criminal offenses in their jurisdiction. Execute all 44 people on D row and begin pursuing the death penalty, the D penalty. Damn, ought to do something about that. For violence and sexual abuse against children. Prosecute simple possession. Use active duty and National Guard at the border. End all policies, investigations, or cases that run contrary to administration. Use the Freedom of Access to Clinics Entrances, FACE Act, to protect protesters instead of patients and staff. Enact policies that prohibit settlement repayments to third parties. Litigation decisions consistent with the president's agenda. Department leadership to impose appropriate disciplinary actions for anyone who speaks out of turn on it. Ignore congressional subpoenas. Cease the use of civil rights division and protect Black and Brown and Indigenous people. Cease the use of civil rights division to protect Black, Brown, and Indigenous people, and use it instead to protect Christian nationalists. Move election-related offenses to criminal division instead of civil rights division. Eliminate provisional ballots. Reject third-party requests to investigate hate crimes, public safety, etc. Rescind all federal grants not in line with administration. Prosecute every person at the border. Withdraw and overturn all immigration decisions by current DOJ. Reinstate all Trump rules. End all non-essential detail of department personnel, particularly those detailed in congressional offices. No more protection for members of Congress. Department of Labor. Reverse all DEI in labor policies. Issue executive order to ban critical race theory. It doesn't. Enforce Title VII to protect white people. I'm not really sure what Title VII is, and I don't think I'm qualified to look into that. Eliminate EEO data collection. Let's see. EEO. Equal employment opportunity. Eliminate disparate impact liability and the theory of discrimination for race and other bases. Eliminate the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs. Rescind EO 11246, non-discrimination by contractors. Restrict the use of Bostock regarding LGBTQ protections. Remove protection for gay and trans people. Rescind all regulations prohibiting discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation, gender identity, transgender status, and sex characteristics. Agencies to use biological binary meaning of sex only. Pro-life policies in place for mothers and insurers rescind access to birth control and abortion care. Protections for religious employers. Refocus labor regulations on the good of the family, quote unquote. Incentivize on-site child care, but offer no employee discounts. Redirect research budget from influences on women's workspace participation and earning gaps. Remove influence on women's workplace and participation and gender pay gap research. Monthly reports of American families. Require fair labor standards to pay time and a half for work on Sundays, except mandatory workers such as first responders, etc. Work-related expenses for work-from-home employees is not reimbursable. Allow religious organizations to participate in federal apprenticeship programs. Current laws state no religious organization receives federal funding. Department should allow teens to work in hazardous jobs, meat packing, slaughterhouses, chemicals, etc. Prohibit degrees from job description requirements. Politically appointed labor inspectors to access all state UI records. And investigate every person. Prohibit formal worker management cooperation organizations and unions. If employees move to unionize, employees can no longer vote by secret ballot. End PLA requirements, project labor agreements, which are pre-hire collective bargaining agreements between construction unions and contractors. Repeal Davis-Bacon Act and allow markets to determine wages. Leave all unemployment benefits on state budgets. Remove environmental social governance from ERISA, Employment Retirement Income Security Act of 1974. Cap and phase down seasonal work visas for migrant employees. Phase out non-agricultural season workers completely. All federal contracts should require at least 70% of the contractor's employees be U.S. citizens, with percentage reaching 95% in 10 years. Maximize hiring of political appointees. Appoint new EEOC and NLRB, National Labor Relations Board, General Counsel on first day. Immediate hiring freeze for career officials. Department of Transportation. Fuel economy standards to be determined by DOT and not the EPA. Remove or reform rules and regulations that hamper state governments. Reduce federal assistance. Reduce the amount of federal involvement in local infrastructure decisions. Allow smaller airlines to enter joint venture efforts to compete with larger airlines. Review foreign ownership of airlines in the U.S. FAA is outdated agency and needs to be automated with fewer or no professional airframe and power plant mechanics. What's FAA stand for? I gotta look at that. Federal Aviation Administration. Okay. I've never looked it up, I guess. I didn't. Anyway, separate the FAA from DOT and privatize as a business. implement more user fees for air travel. Department of Veteran Affairs, VA, rescind all department clinical policy directives that are contrary to conservatism with abortion services and gender-affirming care. Conduct an independent audit of the VA similar to the 2018 DoD audit by Trump administration. Facility sharing partnership between VA and local hospitals. Require VA facilities to increase the number of patients seen each day. Patient logs are already so behind that many veterans can't be seen for at least a year. Private companies perform disability examinations. At least that's their goal, I guess. Increase automation. Sunset the Office of Accountability and Whistleblower Protection Act. Limit qualifying disabilities. Narrow eligibility for health benefits and change them for existing claims and current recipients of disability benefits. This means they will also reclassify disabilities already determined by the VA and stop paying out disability to members they decide don't deserve it. Rescind all delegation of authority from Biden administration and transfer all senior executive employees out of positions and replace them with political appointees to ensure political control of the VA. This concludes Section 3 of the General Welfare. Section 4, the economy, is coming in a bit. Time for a break, she says. Section 4, the economy. Overview. The complete overhaul of our economy and taxes. 10% minimum tariffs across the board. Lower taxes for the wealthy. Department of Commerce. Eliminate the Department of Commerce. Move to the U.S. Patents and Trademarks Office into a move the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office into a performance-based organization under the Department of Management and Budget. What? Dismantle the NOAA, National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration, and place under the control of the states. All advisory committees abolished or moved under the president. They admit that the higher tariffs will result in higher costs for the U.S. businesses and consumers. All commerce decisions to be made by political appointees to control critical supply chains, prescriptions, medical devices, food, etc. Isolationism of university studies. The U.S. universities will no longer partner with outside universities for studies, etc. There's the fascism again. Census Bureau to be operated by political appointees and trusted career officials, aka the Heritage Foundation database. Add citizenship question to census. Reduce race and ethnicity options to one singular non-white. Abolish National Advisory Committee for Census Bureau. All decision-making to a politically appointed assistant. Eliminate any focus on minority advancement of the Minority Business Enterprise and Advisory Council for Minority Enterprise. Ensure MBDA has consequences for poor performance. What is MBDA? Hold on. I'm going to be kicking myself if that's literally what they said. Oh, Minority Business Development Agency. Oh, great. Yep. I'm an idiot. Privatize the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, Department of the Treasury. Reduce regulations and compliance. Reverse racist equity agenda of the Biden administration. Reverse the climate-related financial risk agenda of the Biden administration. Reduce career staff and replace with Heritage Foundation database employees. Raise the revenue on the middle class by applying tax code equally and enacting a two-rate individual tax system of 15% corporate tax and 30% at the Social Security wage base, roughly $165,000 annually. Corporation, and then they add asterisks. Corporate income tax is the most damaging in the U.S. tax system. This is quoting that document, that's absurd. Tax capital gains and qualified dividends at 15%. Repeal all tax increases passed in the Inflation Reduction Act. Repeal increased taxes for wealthy. Repeal subsidies in tax code, including dozens of credits and tax breaks for green energy. Include employer insurance as an employee benefit expense and tax it. Health savings accounts will count towards untaxed benefits cap, roughly $12,000 per year. Limitation on benefit deduction should not be indexed to increase with inflation, and employers should be denied deductions for health insurance and other benefits provided to employees dependent if they are 23 or older, gutting part of the ACA if they fail to repeal. Require congressional supermajority to pass new tax codes. Withdraw from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, a unique forum where the governments of 37 democracies with market-based economies collaborate to develop policy standards to promote sustainable economic growth. Reduce the size of the IRS and increase the number of presidential appointments. The same rate of interest on underpayments as overpayments. Extend time frame for taxpayers to sue for improper collection, currently 2 years. Expand the jurisdiction of the tax court. Reduce the most punitive tax penalties. Close the IRS Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. Gut Dodd-Frank protections. Eliminate the Counselor for Racial Equity and the Advisory Committee on Racial Equity because it's racist. Identify all Treasury officials who participated in DEI, make them public, and terminate their employment. Invest in domestic gas and oil, and reverse support for all international public and private-based efforts promoting green energy. Eliminate the U.S. Trade Development Agency. Import-Export Bank. Assist American businesses export their goods by providing financial assistance in the form of loans, loan guarantees, and insurance. They want to abolish it. Damn it. Okay, Federal Reserve. Abolish/eliminate it. Small Business Administration. Allow all religious entities eligible to participate in SBA loan programs. Eliminate SBA disaster loan programs. Hold on, let me look up SBA. I think I've probably seen that before, but I'm just going to have to look it up again. No. Small Business Administration. Yeah, like I said, I'm dumb sometimes. Forbes calls Project 2025 a business disaster and a map to oblivion. Trade. Nothing definitive on trade. Both sides' argument for and against free trade. Previously mentioned 10% tariff rate could start a trade war. Presidential authority to set tariffs. Border adjustment tax. Eliminate the ability of corporations to deduct the cost of imports while eliminating the tax on income attributable to exports. Final section, Section 5. Independent regulatory agencies. Overview. Many independent commissions exist that are loosely affiliated with the executive branch. In general, the president can appoint people to these commissions, but not remove them. Move to abolish or reduce agencies. Securities and Exchange Commissions and related agencies. The Securities Act and the Securities Exchange Act, passed in response to the Great Depression and after the stock market crash, reflect nearly 9 decades of, quote, rushed and haphazard amendments. according to this document. The State Security Act serves the dual purpose of ensuring that issuers sell securities to the public, selling securities to the public, disclose material information, and that any securities transactions are not based on fraudulent information or practices. The Securities Exchange Act requires disclosure of important information by anyone seeking to acquire more than 5% of a company's securities by direct purchase or tender offer. Such an offer often is extended to gain control of the company. Project 2025 wants to repeal/overturn them. Full use of dark money, abolish the Public Company Accountability Oversight Board and Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. Financial regulatory officials of diversity, equity, and inclusion should be abolished. Terminate the Consolidated Audit Trail CAT program. CAT enables regulators to track all orders and trade activity for trends, etc. Abolish climate change rules for public companies. Repeal Dodd-Frank mandates disclosures relating to conflict minerals, mine safety, resource extraction, and CEO pay rations, cryptocurrency. Oppose business in the name of social justice, corporate social responsibility, stakeholder theory, environmental, social, and government's ESG criteria, social responsibility investment for 401(k), I think, pensions, sustainability, diversity, business ethics, or common good capitalism. Prohibit securities regulators from DEI rules. Eliminate all administrative proceedings within the SEC. End the practice of delegating decisions to initiation enforcement cases. Limit the time for an investigation to 2 years with no extensions. Reduce the number of direct reports to the SEC chairman. Leave all of this to the Department of Justice. Allow banks to use Bitcoin to back banknotes instead of cash. Add cryptocurrency to definition of commodities. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Abolish the CFPB and reverse Dodd-Frank Section 1061, returning consumer protection functions to banking regulators. Repeal Dodd-Frank Section 1071, which relates to small business data collection, imposes requirements on financial institutions lending to small firms. Federal Communications Commission, written by the current FCC commissioner, punish social media companies for banning users for beliefs, e.g. conspiracy theories, mis- and disinformation. User control of information online, leaving no accountability for mis- and disinformation. Self-moderated social media timelines. Free reign to big tech, except TikTok, WeChat, etc. Ban those. Reduce broadband availability funding. Federal Election Commission, remove any remaining commissioners who have not yet been replaced after their term happens to be a Democrat. Ensure a conservative majority of commissioners and ensure replacement commissioners hold the same exact view of the commissioners they replace. Ensure any commissioner of the opposition party does not hold the same views as the commissioner they replace. Congress passed laws to remove the agency's independent litigating authority and rely on the Department of Justice to handle all litigation involving the FEC, Trump control. The president should vigorously oppose all effort to change the structure of the FEC to reduce the number of commissioners from 6 to 5 or another odd number. Raise election contribution limits. Federal Trade Commission, either full partisan control or abolish/eliminate it. roll back environmental regulations to benefit AI and crypto agencies, which I wanted to say this at the time, but crypto and AI are both exceptionally power hungry. They are wasteful to an incredible degree that every tech bro who is on their side will tend to try and hand wave. Okay, it is the most wasteful tech at the moment for so little. But I digress. Back to the point. Roll back Biden administration efforts to ensure AI safety. Defend the right to mine Bitcoin, quote unquote. Prevents trade regulation and avoids oversight and law enforcement activity of the agency and ends its independent status. Congress should investigate ESG practices as a cover for anti-competition. This concludes the outline of the plan they have for Project 2025. They'll be posting, and they post an afterward, and they say, I'm going to quote directly from the afterword. The idea of mandate for leadership was first conceived in the fall of 1979 at the Heritage Foundation Board of Trustees meeting when former Treasury Secretary Bill Simon and former General Service Administrator Jack Eckerd discussed the predicament they had faced when they first joined a new, more conservative presidential administration. First published in January 1981, the original mandate served as a conservative plan of action for the Reagan administration, providing much of the blueprint for the Reagan Revolution. On January 21st, 1981, at first meeting of his cabinet, President Reagan distributed copies of the mandate, and many of the study's authors were recruited into the administration to implement its recommendations. Mandate's proven ideas and President Reagan's skills at communicating their benefits led to his administration implementing almost half of the recommendations by the end of his first year in office. After that, the first edition, a new mandate, was produced every 4 years. Soon after President Donald Trump was sworn in, his administration began to implement major parts of the 2016 mandate. After his first year in office, the administration had implemented 64% of its policy recommendations. President Trump had implemented more recommendations in his first year than Reagan did in his. So, as you can see, Project 2025 has been around for decades. This has always been the goal of the Heritage Foundation, though conservative politicians, through conservative politicians. The media kept calling it Trump's Project 2025, but the language throughout the document didn't specify just him. It mostly used president or next conservative president. Again, this has been planned for decades. They just update it every 4 years. Reagan used this document. Trump used it in his first term. It's also likely that Bush 1 and 2 used it. So, don't think that it can't happen. Trump completed the majority of the last document his first term. So save this thread. Cross-reference it to what is reported and the incoming administration signals and what the incoming administration signals and does. We can't protect ourselves or fight back if we don't know what is happening or what may come. Project 2025 is their battle plan. If you have questions about specific parts of Project 2025, I highly recommend you Google it and download the free copy. It's a lot to read, and a lot of it is deliberate, over-explained, and confusing, and contradictory. But most chapters have bullet points, much like I laid out here. You can do a search in the PDF to see if there's something more specific on any topic. Keep the file handy in your cloud. It's going to be 4 years of taking notes, watching, comparing. Be ready. End. So, honestly, I'm still processing a lot of that, and I don't have much else to say after that except that I gotta decompress, and I gotta post tonight about the guy in the chair patrol, quote unquote. But this will come out tomorrow, or, well, whatever. Peace. Thanks for watching to the end if you did.